What are we talking about again?
Something you know nothing about.
Okay, that's good.
So
The company, right?
yeah. So
Right.
Just your life.
Right. Okay, I got that.
just your it turns out your life work.
Your life work.
Right. Okay, right, got it.
Yeah. So
My income.
you know this is going to be the pull clip for the beginning now, right?
All right.
All right. So what was there was a reason why you started the business. What was the problem you saw in the market that made you go, oh, I got to really pull the trigger and do this myself?
When I was a young engineer, nobody really understood how complex propagation conditions were for RF.
Mm-hmm.
And the models that they had built to model the real world were vastly oversimplified and inadequate.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched as the consumer electronics industry spent hundreds of millions of dollars to build TVs that just didn't work because they had underestimated the complexity of the real world.
Mm-hmm.
So there really is only one way to capture the true complexity of our RF propagation, and that's with a recording, right? So everything else is just an approximation. If you want to actually know all the crazy stuff that happens to RF signals as it flies through the air from transmitter to receiver, you really need to have a recording. And I always just felt that the traditional big box test equipment guys wanted to sell you spectrum analyzers and signal generators, which were an idealistic view of the world,
Yeah, right. Sure.
And I was very much in forget about idealistic. I want to see what's actually happening. I want to make recorders because this is reflective of true complexity, and nobody else is doing it.
You know, what's funny is that in our world, in the RF world, there's so much use of RF simulation.
Yeah.
But so even if you start going down the road of RF simulation, everyone who knows and has done it, it's an approximation. It's far from perfect. It's an endpoint to get you faster up the learning curve, up the development cycle, right?
Yep.
Knowing full well you've got to come back, revisit, and it's not going to be truly unique.
Right.
What do we call this? We call this a black art, black magic, however the heck you want to think about it in this RF world. It is far from perfect.
Yeah. And it, like I like to say, simulation is necessary but not sufficient. So you start with simulation and then you have to go to the real world. Now, if you're operating in a defense environment, you're not just up against physics, but against your adversary, right? So now your adversary is doing unpredictable things. So now you have to model what you think your adversary is going to do, right? So when you take the existing complexity of RF propagation and then layer in the uncertainties of what your adversary is going to do, I mean, the complexity is overwhelming. So recording is a great way to sort of get a better handle on what actually happens in the battle space or in complex propagation conditions. So,
where I grew up in town of Warminster, Pennsylvania, and we had Naval Air Development Center there, and family members work there. If you're my age, you grew up, and it's a rich tradition if you appreciate what it really was and the things that were done there.
Yep.
And at one point, they created a setup where they literally hung a jet, a fighter jet upside down, and also a Huey helicopter upside down.
Okay.
And so what we eventually learned is what they were starting to look at. They were starting to look at identifying aircraft by radar signature.
Right.
And of course, you have to start out in a rudimentary fashion, right? You put it upside down. But those things were mounted and permanent. Just the dynamics of as soon as that sucker starts moving.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you and I know that the speed of the radar signal is a lot faster than the speed of the aircraft.
Yeah.
But the dynamics change.
Yeah.
The angles of reflection change, all kinds of things. Atmospheric conditions change, distances change, all these things, and they change in less than a blink of an eye.
Right.
So it's a complete and total difference but you have to start somewhere. Right? You have to start somewhere.
Just because a problem is hard doesn't mean you shouldn't start it.
Absolutely.
Right. So you always start with these simple approximations, and then as you get closer and closer to, really fielding something and really understanding how it's going to perform, you need more and more accuracy in your model, and ultimately you need. Even with RF recording, at the end of the day, you still need real-world field tests.
Right.
So there's this gradation over time. So anyway, as a young and naive engineer who had no preconceived notions about how things should be done, I looked around and I said, spectrum analyzers and signal generators, this is crazy. What are these people doing? And then I was foolish enough to think that, gee, I'll start my own instrument business.
But that's not the extent of the problem.
Right.
In that there were other people making
Yeah,
recorders.
there were very few people making recorders, and they were very, very, I'm going to say risky to use, because people would they'd buy these expensive recorders, right? They would take them out into an expensive field test environment and spend, tens of thousands of dollars a day in labor and, all kinds of, getting all kinds of people, gathered for these field tests and all this stuff. And the recorders were so hard to use that they would get corrupted recordings just because the user interfaces were so terrible, right? It would be ridiculous stuff. Like if you don't put 5 in this field, the whole recording will be corrupt. It was insane. So they were clearly recorders that were designed by a lab rat, right? Who didn't really understand what it meant to be in a high stress environment. I understood what it meant to be in a high stress environment because I had this crazy prior career doing TV stuff. I used to direct TV shows, right? That one of the highest stress, right?
Talk about crazy.
Yeah, right. So I understood what it meant to have a really good user interface in a high stress environment, right? And these people who made these RF recorders at the time, they didn't understand the importance of ease of use. And so, and I actually was involved in a field test program. We went out to houses all across Washington, D.C. and Baltimore and Philadelphia. We made a bunch of recordings. I think 2/3 of them were corrupt. We spent a month in the field and 2/3 of the recordings were corrupt, right? Because these recorders were so hard to use. To me, that was like an insult, right? This is outrageous. How are these recorders so awful, right? Such a good idea executed so poorly. So that was the other, I saw the problem. I felt like I knew what the solution was, and I had seen the shortcomings in the existing products, and then I just, I got addicted to solving it, and here I am.
So with every entrepreneur, you see a problem in the market, and you get addicted to solving it so much so that you're willing to take the risk, and come in and do this stuff yourself.
That's right.
That's all the great innovation happens.
Yeah.
Right. That's really why startups exist in the first place. So, but this doesn't sound like. I mean, I'm not buying one.
No.
Okay. I mean, and
I'm not buying one.
I'm in the RF business.
Yeah.
What do I need one of these things for?
Yeah.
Who's the market that's going to really appreciate the problem?
I mean, personally, I think everybody needs a recorder on their benchtop. Okay, that's my dream for the future. I don't see why every RF engineer shouldn't have a recorder on their benchtop. That's easy to use and inexpensive. Now, we're not there today, right? After all these years, it's still a relatively niche instrument. But that's my long-term vision, is everyone should have these things. Today, our customer base is primarily DoD, right? So people doing electronic warfare research, radar research, GPS jamming, that kind of things. Really high stakes environments where field conditions are unpredictable. That's our typical customer today, but my long-term vision really is that every engineer deserves a recorder on their bench. And I think it's criminal if they don't have it, right? So that's the long-term vision of the company.
It's funny. I've known you for 1.5 years now. This is the first time you shared that vision with me, the long-term vision for a new and different future.
I've been here 3 years. I've never heard that.
maybe that's just something. Maybe that's just something I think about in bed by myself.
But I appreciate that. It's one thing to create a product and sell it, and you go out there and all you do is try and get money from people.
Yeah, right. Well, that's step one.
Right. It's an enabling, right?
Yeah.
You do have to get started, but if you have a long-term vision, if you have a dream, if you have a mission, then it's a lot easier to get behind. I can definitely imagine quite a number of RF engineers going, yeah, I could really use an RF recorder on my desktop.
I mean, for the right price, who doesn't want that?
Well,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But that vision is key to changing a future. If all we're doing is just trying to create a product and sell it, we're not envisioning a new and different future. And new and different future is what startups are about.
Yeah.
You see a status quo that is not serving the needs of a problem, so you envision a new and different future.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah. I mean, and on top of that too, when you look at, there are a lot of entrenched interests in the RF test and measurement market, right? There's not a lot. There are a few companies that make a lot of money selling spectrum analyzers and signal generators, right? They're really not motivated to sell different things. They have a business line, they have stockholders to keep happy, right? And quarterly revenue goals to hit, and they're not really interested in fundamentally transforming the way RF engineers work. So it's going to have to be a small business, right, that comes in and disrupts. I know this sounds cliche, but it's even possible to disrupt the RF test and measurement market, right? And it's long overdue. If you think about how long the 2 or 3 big guys have dominated the marketplace, it's kind of crazy, right?
I don't think it is a cliche, Sean. The whole point of our podcast, frankly, is that we have just observed what we've seen in our decades of work in the RF industry and from our respective views. We've seen the same thing. The innovation primarily comes from the startups. It comes from the small businesses. Right. Yes, there is incremental product development. Yes, there are new products that are developed by larger businesses as well. But if you want to do something truly disruptive, overwhelmingly, it's because you don't see that coming from the big guys.
Right.
Or they talk about it and they simply can't get it.
They just can't get it. They just can't get it right. Yeah.
They can't get there fast enough. So something like that has to happen. So I don't see it as a cliche at all.
Yeah.
And it takes somebody with with an awful lot of courage to come out and do that. We talked about that before. There's some of us that have that courage and some of us that don't have that courage.
Yeah. For us, it's an incremental journey, right? So we're not a company that has venture capital money, right? For us, we very much have to sell products individually before we get to that to drive revenue, to build the company until we get to that long-term vision. So we're not, this company is not built around fast growth VC money. There's a long-term vision, but we have to get there the old-fashioned way. I don't know if we have to get that. We are going to get there the old-fashioned way. Not we have to, but.
Well, the good news is in 2025, bootstrapped companies is kind of in vogue.
Yeah, right.
You had the VC craze, which really happened, and now you've got a lot of private equity companies. But
we could have another podcast talking about private equity.
We may very well. But, bootstrap companies have always happened.
Yeah.
But in a way, it's become in vogue. There are folks that think that it is a superior way to grow your business if you can pull it off.
I personally, I think it's a lot more customer oriented, right? So when you look at VC money, they have a mandate to grow very, very fast, regardless of the consumer experience. When you look at private equity, they have a mandate essentially, right, to drive revenue so that they can borrow against the company. And neither of these things are customer oriented, right? It's the bootstrap company that really is focused on making sure the customer gets the features they need in a sustainable way for the long term, right? VC companies, again, they're looking for that exit. Private equity is looking for their own exit, right? And maybe they're going to flip it and sell it to some other PE company in 3 years, right? It's the bootstrap companies and the ones that support families, right, that really are building sustainable businesses that I think are going to serve the customer in the long term and not just the shareholders.
Well, what concerns me, and that it is a benefit of the bootstrap company, is that when you're being accelerated by venture capital, when you're being accelerated by private equity, and with their expectations, or if you have a very large company with public shareholders, and a board that is demanding and essentially drives that accelerated growth, preferably, you begin to make decisions that are not very customer focused.
Right.
You start to push people just to achieve your own, what ends up being self-serving revenue goal.
Yeah.
Revenue is clearly an important goal. It's not that I am against revenue. I'm capitalist through and through. But frankly, I've seen quite a few customers and vendors who've gotten angry because you come in basically saying, I need an order. I need you to ship so that I can get an order. Me.
Yep.
That's what I call wind disease. What I need, it's a disease. As opposed to thinking about a very customer-centric approach. You can do both, but unfortunately, the heavily accelerated model by infusing a lot of cash can oftentimes lead to some pushing of the wrong people you don't want pushed. Where bootstrap, it can have its downsides too, and that some days you can appear desperate.
Yeah, right.
And some days you are desperate.
Sure, yeah.
Some days you're really struggling. There is no panacea.
Absolutely.
The whole growing a business and the days of not taking a paycheck and all these different things are really they're real.
Oh yeah. I mean, 15 years ago, that was the lesson I learned the hard way 15 years ago, is that's just not sustainable, not taking a paycheck. But there are a lot of bootstrap companies in the early days bootstrap owners in the early days who do that, thinking that is the way forward. But the truth is, the bootstrap company has to be not only has to sustain itself, but it also has to have enough revenue to grow, right? Because without growth, it's death. So we need to be sustainable. We want to serve the customer in the long term, but we also have to grow in order to survive. Because if you're not growing, you're dying. So anyway, yeah.
So what are some of the things that get in your way relative to being a sustainable company in that regard?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the market that we chose which is primarily a government market, right? Very, very long and unpredictable sales cycles, 6 month to 2 year sales cycle, large upfront investments in the sales cycle that may or may not pay off. So in our business, we have to make our bets very wisely, right? Because we can't bet on everything. So we have to make our bets wisely, make our bets on the opportunities and the products that we think are going to have the highest probability of closing, right? And so that's, I think, the uncertainty, the long sales cycle, the big investment in the sales cycle is the hardest thing that we face. Yeah. People think when they think about government contract and they think, oh, you just, submit a bid and they just choose the best one. That's not how this works. No. Right? The public bidding happens after a 1.5 year sales cycle that preceded that. And if you are seeing that opportunity posted on sam.gov for the first time, you're 1.5 years late.
Yes, you are.
So
you are.
Despite what all the government, business development, marketing firms want you to believe, that's not how the game's played.
Well, I mean, there are people that are trying to make a living just going out and looking at the bid boards and making quotes for a commoditized product that have a different perspective, and they think they may think that is way more of it works than actually does.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, in today's environment, which the regulatory environment is changing so fast right now. It's May of 2025 right now. In government acquisition, if you're not adding value, you're in trouble because the government's onto you. People who are not adding value to these acquisition cycles are in trouble. So thankfully, we're not in that position.
Well, thank God they finally got here and reached the rest of the world.
Right.
We've seen enough of that over the years. Again, you've been around long enough, you start to see some things where you just, what in God's name were they thinking?
Right.
So one of the things I want to talk about, and the reason why we're here today is, it's our podcast. But we're trying to bring a service to people. But the reason why we came together, so I'm shifting gears here big time.
Go for it.
For goodness sake.
Did we prep on this?
We did not prep on this at all. I know you're prepared. I know you're prepared. For God's sake, we're sitting in a video studio.
Yeah.
And there's people would think you're nuts.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I am a little nuts, for sure.
Okay. Well, most
right? I mean, is it true?
Are in their own way, right? But in terms of how you're going to market, how you're getting noticed, how you're why this?
Yeah. Well, there are multiple answers to that. Some of it is personal to me, right? So I read a book a number of years ago that talked about how every person has to leverage their own individual skill stack. So we all have, maybe we're both engineers, but we also have some other things in our history that makes us unique. And so when you combine your unique set of skills, right, most likely nobody else has those things. So for me, right, I'm an engineer, long-term engineer, relatively good communicator, and I have a TV and video background, right, because of this weird work that I did 20 years ago. So when you combine those things together, it creates a very unique skill set that very few other people in the RF engineering community have, right? The ability to do engineering, communication, and video. There's just not a lot of people with that's a weird combination. So that's the first reason, right? The number two reason is that we can communicate to our customers who we really are through video, right? I think if you look in the trade magazines today, we've talked about this. It's spec sheets and give us a call. We'll tell you how much it costs. And we have that, of course, spec sheets, and we will tell you how much it costs.
Yeah, of course.
But really, we want to communicate our values and our stories about how our products can improve your design process, right? And that's really best done through video. So there's strategic reasons behind it, right? Which is really, this is the only way we can communicate our values. Not the only way. I think it's the best and strongest way to communicate our values and what we're all about.
And education. I mean,
yes.
Communicate and educate are
Yeah.
really the hand in hand, especially with video.
Right.
And why we choose to do that.
Yeah.
Because we really do want to educate first and foremost
Yes.
to anyone that we're speaking.
Yes.
Whether it's about educating about SpectraLab, the company, or just someone who's interested in RF, someone who being new to RF, even someone who's long-term to RF, something they might not know or something new.
Yes. I love to share knowledge. It's a core value of our company. Is all of us are continuous learners in this company. If you ask Ariel, she'll tell you that at our weekly staff meeting, I have a section up front where we talk about what we learned this week or what we plan to learn next week. I take it very seriously. And that's something that we want to share all of our knowledge with everybody in the community, because it doesn't make sense to me to keep knowledge secret, right? I feel like we have a duty to share what we know, a duty to the community, if not, in a patriotic sense, our fellow United States citizens, right? To really be competitive in the world.
Well, it's going to come out. In 2025, it's going to come out. People are going to share it, and you really can't keep it a secret.
Yeah.
It's, frankly, a lot of what we do is physics.
Yeah.
Physics ain't a secret. Let me just tell you, it's not a secret.
Yeah.
Okay? People know what the heck it is. And so, but you might as well be on the forefront and get it out there.
Yeah. Well, I think education, when we talk about education, right, physics, it all comes down to physics, sure. But a lot of the education we do is, let me just tell you about all the ways I screwed up before, right? To me, that's how I think about education. Let me just tell you what you shouldn't do, because I already did this.
Well, and by the same token, it has to be education, because RF ain't exactly going to win a Tony Award.
Right. That's right.
Okay. I mean, how do you make RF interesting?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there are people to whom it's incredibly interesting. Yeah. So, you know who you are. We love you. That's why we do what we do, is so we can help you. But it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. Yeah. I happen to geek out over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not the kind of engineer that you are. I'm an industrial engineer. But after 25 years, I've learned a thing or three.
Yep, absolutely.
I've learned to really appreciate what we do supports a vision of the world that is better as well. A safe, a secure world. Enabling technologies enable this stupid phone, right? I mean, this is RF. People just don't know it. It's not our world so much. But that's exactly what's going on. So it is interesting in a sense. Oftentimes it's interesting in how it's used, in the applications and that sort of thing, unless you're truly that academic and you're really deep in the weeds and you're inquisitive.
Yeah.
So, but education brings it to a lot wider audience.
Yeah.
And that's really, really crucial.
Yeah.
If we could make it all entertaining, we certainly would. Heck, Bill Nye found a way to make science interesting.
Yeah.
So, maybe you can do it too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and, just from a business standpoint too, when you've educated, when you've given people, when you've shared your knowledge with people freely, they come to trust you more and believe what you say, right? When you make a promise on your products that it's really going to deliver, because they've come to view you as a source of knowledge, a trusted source of knowledge, right? And really from a business and marketing standpoint, that's what we're after, right? We want the RF community to see us as a source of trusted knowledge in trusted information, right, in RF instrumentation.
Well, we're back to that people want to do business with people, especially people they like thing. I say it all the time. And I'm not going to stop saying it, because I just find it to be true. They don't want to do business with companies. They don't want to, they just want a product.
Yeah, and so when you look at like the RF test and measurement market today, and you look at some of the really serious competitive threats coming from overseas, right? You look at, there's some websites, you can go to these websites, these companies you've never heard of before, making products that look a lot like what Keysight's selling or Tektronix is selling. I think Tektronix is probably the first one that really started to experience the knockoff artists, right? Those kind of companies that are just knocking off products and don't have a relationship with their customers or their audience or any kind of trust relationship, they can only sell on features and price, right? And so if you're only selling on features and price, you're essentially competing with those Chinese knockoff companies, right? So that's not a position we want to be in, right? So we want to differentiate in product features and performance, but we also want to differentiate in the way that we market our products and have a relationship with our customers. So it's important. I think a lot of people, when they use the word differentiation, they just think, oh, this product has this features and this product has these features and this is the price difference. So differentiation is a lot more sophisticated than features and price, right? So I know that for us, for our customers, again, I always use this phrase, features and price are necessary. Actually, features, a lot of times we're really not competing on price. Features are necessary, but it's not sufficient. They really need, for our customers, usually, they want to see a demo. They want to make sure it actually does the measurement that they want to do. You know, it's one thing to read a data sheet. It's another thing to go visit a customer and say, here's the instrument, try it out. We're going to leave it behind for a week. We trust our products enough that we're going to let you do whatever you want to it for a week. And then we're going to come back and get it. That's a totally different, that's a differentiation that the knockoff artists are never going to be able to match.
I would say that and sustainment. I think
Yes.
sustainment in the long term, but also up front in the whole process, and knowing that they're having sustainment throughout the entire process as well as for years to come afterwards.
Yes.
And you give that. We can give that as a small business where it might be more difficult for other companies. But I think that's something that's really important, especially working with the DoD. Sustainment is huge long term.
You're not just making an RF recorder. In fairness, you're making an exact fit RF recorder.
Right.
It's a very, very different animal than somebody buying one off of a website or just out of a catalog.
It is.
So what does that mean?
So exact fit instrument is a concept that we came up with when we looked at the market and said, you know, people who need to buy RF instrumentation, they kind of have two rotten choices right now, or before we introduce this concept, right? One is you can go into a catalog, you can choose out what features and price, what you need, the list of features. Hopefully you've identified all the features you need in advance and you don't change your mind after you've already taken delivery of the instrument, right? So you can buy these rack and stack fixed instruments that do a thing and they'll never do anything more. They will do the thing that you ordered when you bought it on that day. So I hope you don't change your mind 6 months later, right? That's the way it's been for 50, 60, 70 years in test and measurement. Then you have this other choice, also not that great. Here's a pile of parts. We'll build you anything you want. Just, make sure you have ample budget and ample time. And again, make sure you don't forget anything because, that's going to be a change order and that's going to cost you another, $50,000. So you had the rack and stack fixed feature option, and then you had here's a pile of parts, we'll build anything you want, and you're going to bear all the risk. Right. So we really felt there was room for a third option, which is you're going to buy an instrument, you're going to get features on day one that work, but you can change your mind 3 months later and ask for more features, right? So as you start to use the instrument, you say, hey, you know what? Actually, I kind of really needed to make this other measurement that I didn't know about. With an exact fit instrument, you can call us up and say, hey, I need some new software. And we will actually write that software feature for you and deliver it to you. So it's not like a customer calls up and says, gee, I wish your instrument had this feature. And we say, well, yeah, maybe we'll get to that, in 3 years. With an exact fit, you have a guarantee that when you put in a request, you're actually going to get that feature in a reasonable amount of time. It's like a guarantee. So that's the idea behind exact fit. It's the difference between, it's that space in the middle between custom and fixed. We call it exact fit.
Well, so Ariel, you mentioned the word sustain, and in 2025, sustainability is such a big topic, but that's not really what you're talking about. You're talking about sustaining customers and value.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a completely different animal altogether. In that you've got to keep that.
I love that.
It's not just out. It's just not out the door.
Right.
And done.
Yeah.
Okay. It's you're sustaining a customer experience for the long term.
Yeah.
Because after all, I mean, what you're talking about to me is it's while your RF instrumentation may have improved features versus something else, what you're talking about is a differentiated customer experience.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's and in fact, some ways a differentiated business model because others wouldn't do it this way.
It's a very different. I don't know of any other companies doing this. Right. It's risky and it's kind of crazy, actually. Right. To deliver a product and say, oh, you can call us and get it changed later. Who does that? Right. That's kind of crazy. And it's something that we can. I don't know if we're going to be able to scale that to $1 billion. Right. Okay. But it's something that we can do now. Right. Because the number of instruments that we ship every year is manageable. Right. And so with the resources we have in house, we can deliver on this feature. Now, I don't, could we do that with 5,000 or 10,000 customers? I don't know. But we're going to, when we get to that place, we'll figure it out. Maybe we can.
Well, I mean, there's the finite versus the infinite mindset. Yeah. With what we understand today, with the constraints that we have today,
it should be possible.
It's tough for us to believe that we could potentially scale that.
Yeah.
But when we open ourselves up to the infinite mindset, which I certainly didn't create this idea, but I certainly believe in it, all futures are possible. It's not a function of whether you can do it. It's a function of how you get from here to there. And we all know that there's got to be a lot of hard work and a little bit of luck along the way.
Yeah.
But you're engineering a business solution to get there, not just engineering a hardware and software solution.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Right.
That's the entrepreneur's dilemma, really, is how do I get from here to there? How do I navigate to get to that new future that I've envisioned?
Yep. I mean, this is, again, kind of cliche, but you think about Amazon, right, and the way they totally changed the delivery model for products, right? If you had said to somebody 15 years ago, oh, you can get like any random thing from China at your desktop in 24 hours, you would say, oh, that's going to be like, $200 in shipping, right? Except it's not. It's free with Amazon Prime, which is mind-blowing, would have been mind-blowing 15 years ago, right? But today is like, you're like, oh my gosh, why is the Amazon guy an hour late? What the heck?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, from a business perspective, there's a different way of looking at how you cost and analyze the business. So many of us are stuck in the mode of, I've got to make my profit on each device.
Yes.
Period.
Right.
And we cannot leave that.
We have a margin. We got to hit this margin.
Right. And because we know at the end it'll all work out.
Yeah.
But the riskier model, which is actually more reflective of reality, because we know that every single transaction is not going to be perfect. The riskier model is, let's just take a look at where we end up at the end of the quarter, the end of the year, which, by the way, we as entrepreneurs, that's how we do it anyway. And we just throw a little bit of caution to the wind and just accept the fact that sometimes they're not going to be perfect.
That's right.
Sometimes they're going to fail. Sometimes they're going to be better than we expected. And in general, we all would believe yes, and it all averages out in the peaks and valleys.
Right.
If you're in that Amazon example, that's quite surely what they're doing.
Oh, surely they're when I order gum for next day delivery, I can't believe they're making a profit on that.
I concur, absolutely concur. But why not embrace that to a certain extent in the way we run the business? It creates a different business model.
It does, and for us, it creates a business model that traditional incumbents really can't compete with. Right? I mean. Surely Walmart saw Amazon coming, and still today they can't keep up with that delivery model.
And what is Walmart trying to do?
They're trying to copy it.
They're trying to copy it. They're not trying to do something different.
Right.
They're trying to copy it. And consequently, they are still well behind.
Yeah.
Versus Amazon, who's trying to create stores. And Walmart is still way out in front. Yeah. And those two positions are highly unlikely to change. And I don't think that it's a function where they can't. I think it's that they won't.
Yeah.
They have these constraints that they are not willing to let go.
Yeah.
They have these barriers that they're not willing to lower. And at the time you reach a large company, everything becomes decision by team. And it takes one dissenting voice that becomes a cacophony.
Well, especially when
stops.
Especially when the founder is long gone.
Especially.
Right. The vision is, it's very hard for a team to have a vision. And if they do, I think that's somebody special made that happen. Right. So without somebody special to drive a vision within a team, that's that's a challenging proposition.
Well, and if you, it's funny, and you bring up the team, so you've got the founder who has the vision, and it may be 2 or 3 people, that small team, and they hire amazing people, and they find a way to make it all happen, and then they give them equity, and they give them a big payout in lieu of pay for that big promise from to stay on and keep that great mind here accomplishing great things, only for you to sell the business, and then that great team takes the payout and they freaking leave.
That's right.
It's like leaving those who hold the company. In a
money talks, man.
Sure, have better.
Money talks.
Sure, better have been prepared. Technical difficulties. So what have you? I mean, what have you learned along the way?
I mean, I've learned a lot of stuff not to do.
Well, that's probably more helpful than stuff that is to do. That's the easy stuff to figure out what to do.
I mean, the main lesson I've learned is that it's important to have that engineer's vision and be product focused, but it's not the whole thing, right? So in the early part of my entrepreneurial journey, I just kind of felt like I'm just going to make this awesome thing and people are just going to buy it, which is obviously wrong, right? So I think if I was going to say what's the top level lesson to entrepreneurship, it's that engineering and marketing and sales and even accounting and IT are all their own discipline. And unfortunately, as an entrepreneur, you kind of have to be good at all of them, which is overwhelming. It's really not enough to be a good engineer. It's definitely not enough to be a good engineer. It's not enough just to be a good marketing person, right? So now some of those things, whether it's accounting and IT, you can obviously outsource that kind of stuff. But I've also found that even to outsource well, you have to know the basics so you can supervise your vendors or your partners or whoever. So it turns out that to be an entrepreneur, you kind of have to know all the departments, which is overwhelming.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And I think that unfortunately we come from this engineer's perspective where a lot of us come off as, frankly, know-it-alls.
Yeah, of course.
We just do.
In that club.
And some may not want to admit it, but a lot of us act like we were in our 20s, well into our 50s.
Yeah, totally.
But we don't know it all.
No.
And it takes an awful lot of
humility. Maybe that's the real lesson, to be humble. Yeah.
You have to say I'm enough, but I'm not enough.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I think with it, I've developed a real passion for marketing, right? I just love it now. I didn't love it. When the early part of my career, I thought it was bullshit. A lot of engineers feel that way.
I still think it's bullshit.
Yeah.
In our business, they think marketing is making a brochure.
Yeah, right. But even some people feel like, oh, you shouldn't even need a brochure. I'll just fire it, I'll just put a Microsoft Word thing together.
Yeah.
So like, that's the one thing that I think engineers in the early days, they'll accept the fact that you need it. They'll certainly accept that you need accounting. Every engineer knows you need accounting, right?
They don't want it, but they need it.
They know they need it. They know they need IT, right? And they know they need manufacturing, right? But it's the sales and marketing stuff that they think is bullshit, but they need it. And they better learn to get good at it. And you better learn to love it, right? And if you are not interested in learning to love new things, you should probably just get a job.
What I've learned being in this industry for 25 years, and by the way, I am guilty of this because it was my job for a very long time, was all you need to do is get me in front of the customer.
Yes.
Said some very technical person at the manufacturer, at the principal, whatever the perspective is. All you need to do is get me a meeting and I will take care of the rest. And that is oftentimes just devolves into a conversation about features
and price.
Right.
Maybe not even price, maybe just features.
Yeah. And now there are some people who are extraordinary at it. So let's not, I've worked with some amazing people. You put them in front of a customer and bam, but they also understand people. It's not just their technical expertise that gets them over the finish line. It's that they understand people. They draw upon their experiences. They draw upon their things that they've done wrong. They draw upon all the cases of all the customers that have come before you. Yeah. And they can bring all of that world to you and help to teach you and accelerate your timeline. That is not just put a technical person in front of them and succeed. Yeah. It's also the characteristics of the founder that are really, really crucial. But then you get to this stage like, oh, well, I can just get a technical person who's younger and that will achieve the same thing. And they don't have the experience and they don't have the stories and they don't have all the
charisma
and the people skills and all that. Yeah. And so oftentimes that may not work, or it may take a lot longer for them to get there. So I've seen that over and over and over again. And we have to learn.
It's a challenge.
We have to learn to love the people and have empathy for the people and have those people skills too.
Yeah, totally. You know, one of the things too, I think when you put kind of a traditional engineer in front of it in a sales situation, the engineer might think, oh, okay, so I'm just gonna go to the customer. I'm gonna ask them what their specifications are, and then I'm gonna work up a price, and they're just gonna tell me yes or no. Right? It's very logical. Right? Easy. The problem is that your customers don't have the specifications. There's this base assumption, which is almost always wrong, that your customers know what they want. They very rarely do. And so a really technical sales engineer, and I'm going to use both of those words, a sales engineer, has the ability to talk to the customer in a way that helps them figure out what it is that they actually need to be successful. Because we're supposed to be the experts in instrumentation. My customers don't have to, they shouldn't have to be experts in instrumentation. They're experts in their own thing. They're experts in radar, they're experts in GPS, whatever they're, maybe even cyber. Whatever they're an expert in, it's probably not instrumentation. That's our job. So as a sales engineer, you have to go in there and help the customer figure out what their specifications are. That's on us. Okay, now once we've agreed with the customer, okay, these are the features you're going to need to make this measurement. Now I can just be a sales guy, right? And now I can go back and put pricing together, and we can, try to close a deal. But the thing that is euphemistically called requirements discovery is the real art of technical sales, and that's the thing that traditional engineers don't have, especially inexperienced ones. They just have this base assumption that the specifications exist, and all I have to do is get a copy of them.
And then I just create a quote, and if you can do that, then you can to other people.
Yeah, that's right.
In which case, now you're competing on price, which is overwhelmingly elusive for somebody, because they aren't actually going to buy on price a lot of the time. They're going to buy on some intangible that you missed.
And I tell you, so Chuck, you run a coaxial cable business, okay? And I remember very clearly as a young engineer 20 years ago or whatever, working on this project where we had really, really tight shielding requirements. It was a FM radio project. We had to measure the sensitivity to the receivers way down. Anyway, so I didn't really know anything about coax. I knew that there was RG58 and 59. That's it. Right.
And there ain't no shielding there, my friend.
No, exactly. Right. So I'm down the lab and I'm opening up and look at them boy, this RG58, I can see right through that braid. That doesn't, I don't feel like that's what I need.
Yeah.
Now in those days, the internet isn't what it is now, but, even for something that you would think is not a complex, and not that I'm saying RF cables can't be complex, right?
Can't hurt my feelings.
But it's not a spectrum analyzer.
It's not a spectrum analyzer.
Right. Even for something, a really fundamental building block of RF systems, a coaxial cable, I still didn't have the specs. I needed some guy to tell me. I said, hey man, I'm doing these FM radio measurements, needs a lot of shielding. And I had to be humble enough to admit that I don't know what the heck I'm buying here. I don't know how to buy an RF cable. That's embarrassing. I just finished electrical engineering school. I don't know how to buy an RF cable, right? So the customer has to be kind of willing to admit that, and then humble enough to accept the advice from a sales professional, not an order taker, somebody who's going to say for these kinds of measurements, you need a foil braid. Right? You need double shield. Look at RG223, right? Whatever. How long is your cable length? Maybe you want to go RG405. I don't remember all the cable's numbers, but off the top of my head. But
that's the phase that I call demand creation. So if all it was just, here's my spec, give me a quote, and I'm going to buy, which does oftentimes happen.
It can.
That's just demand capture.
Yeah.
You're just an order taker.
Right.
In which case, being a sales engineer is irrelevant.
Yeah. Right.
So, but the demand creation phase is you're exposing customers to something that they didn't even conceive existed.
Mm-hmm.
They might be able to envision that there could be a product with a greater capability or a greater specification, but they really have no clue. So we think about creating demand at the larger macro level. I'm creating something to the market, but you can create demand at the micro level with a person or a company, a new way of doing business. I have done it multiple times where you expose them to something brand new. There was one, boy, they used to make fun of me about Gold Dot. Holy mackerel. But by God, I got that suckered in because I saw they didn't even conceive that it was possible. I saw that there was a future with this product in this type of application.
Right.
And it was just about timing. It wasn't anything more than that. And I created that demand and it worked wonderfully. But that specification didn't exist.
Right.
Not only did specification not exist, they didn't know that it was a possibility.
Right. Yes. That's right. Yeah.
And we have to look at that go-to-market in a very, very different way.
Yeah.
Again, if you're doing something that's very commoditized, okay.
Yeah.
It may be somewhat more straightforward. In which case,
but dude, I mean, Chuck, you're selling coaxial cables, and even that is not. I can't. I mean, what's more commoditized than coaxial cables? And even that is not commoditized. It turns out, right?
As it turns out, it's not.
Yeah.
So we did have someone say one time, it's just two connectors on the end of a piece of cable. But this isn't about cables. This is about This is about exact fit RF recorders and instrumentation.
Yeah, yeah.
As we keep talking about the customer who we're talking to, I think it's important that to mention a majority of our customers are not the buyers. They are not the ones who are the final decision makers, which is why another reason for exact fit and why we're so adamant about educating is because there's this ladder of to which the education has to go up. Yep. And it's really important from the beginning and to the engineer that we're speaking to, not only not to just give prices, because most likely in a lot of our situations, obviously not all of our customers, but in a lot of them, and government employees, it's this ladder that you have to climb up, and we're at the bottom, and we need to educate them so that they know what not only they might not know what they need, or they might not know what their manager is really asking for. And so really being able to educate them so that they can also go back and have an educated answer to
their management.
You know, who's actually making the decisions.
Yep.
And how many salespeople, regardless of industry, but wow, is it rampant here, especially if you have some lower performing third-party manufacturers reps. There's some great manufacturers reps out there. I was one. I know them and I love them. But they stop. They stop at the quote. And what they do is they leave that person who's not as skilled as you are to carry your water.
Yes. Yeah.
And they're not equipped for the job.
They're not.
Yeah.
Which also is back to that people skills to be able to navigate your way up the ladder.
Yeah.
So that you don't rely on somebody to carry water.
Yeah.
Forget the fact that I want the sale. Yeah. It's not wind disease.
Right. No,
I'm helping you achieve something great.
Yeah. You know what I think is crazy? And you see this behavior in manufacturer reps, because we buy stuff, of course, right? And so we buy from manufacturer reps that are in our vendor lifecycle, right? And what I see, it's crazy, is they come back, they give you a quote with a price, and then the salesperson hands that off to their inside salesperson, who at that point is just sending you emails every 2 weeks saying, "Have you made a decision yet? When do you think you're going to make a decision?" There's the value addition stops at the price. And then it comes, okay, now we're going to hand you over to the professional nagger. Right? And so they don't equip, when in fact, what's really happening to the customer is he's thinking to himself, how am I going to pitch this to my manager? I really want this thing. How am I going to pitch this to my boss, right? And the help they're getting from the manufacturer's rep or whoever it is that's on the sales side is like, have you made a decision yet? And the dude's sitting there thinking, no, I can't figure out how to talk to my manager about this thing that I really want. That's their actual problem, right? I have to go to my manager and tell them I want to buy a $250,000 thing. How am I going to do that? That's when I think about the sales cycle, right? You have to deliver value during the sales cycle. right?
Throughout the
entire thing, right? You and the buying engineer have to be on the same team to convince management that this is important because it's going to solve this, and this problem. Oh, and by the way, it's definitely going to work and it's low risk. So, yeah, the professional nagging is, I think, not an effective tactic.
And I'm willing to go out on a limb and say the reason why we're sitting in your video studio here is so that you can not just be professional nagger, so that you can actually create value and help them with tools to be able to talk to their manager on how to spend six figures on an instrument.
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah. It's a big, if you put yourself in the shoe, right, of let's say you're an engineer and you've been in the job for 3 or 4 years. And to date, you've bought, I don't know, various lab stuff. Maybe you bought some coaxial cables for a few $1,000s, right? And so you have kind of a good reputation, you're building up your reputation within the company and your manager likes you and he thinks you're smart and everything, and then one day you come to him and you say, hey boss, I need $250,000. That's kind of scary actually for that engineer, right? Because when you get up to those numbers, the engineer is putting his job on the line. Because if he recommends a $250,000 purchase that just doesn't work out, people might be angry at the vendor, but the engineer's job may be on the line, right? So whether or not they think about that consciously or not, nobody really wants to go to their boss and ask for $250,000, right? They'd really rather not, right? So it's a risky thing, and so you really have to be partners with these guys and make sure that they understand what the instrument can do and that they're going to be successful.
And if I listen to this podcast episode and I'm in a buying situation, hearing from the president of the company say these things in a very heartfelt way, it creates trust. And ultimately, that's really what that is. They have to be able to trust you for a six-figure purchase, substantial six-figure purchase. And trust doesn't come easy. Trust is earned.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and it's not just enough to get up here on this screen and say it out loud. We have to actually really believe it.
You got to walk.
We actually really want it. You have to actually really want your customers to be successful.
Which is why going full circle back to exact fit. And I think why we created exact fit and the sustainment part of it, I think brings a huge aspect of peace to a buyer, knowing okay, if I buy this and it's $250,000, you have the peace for yourself and for your manager that well, if there's something that we're missing or something we're not thinking about, it's okay because we will address that in our exact fit and we can accommodate to that. Which is something that a lot of companies don't offer.
Right. I mean, whether they choose not to or they just can't because they're too big. I don't know what the reason is, right? But it's fine with me because it puts us in a really unique, in the catbird seat, in a really unique situation.
And I would say that is the perfect exclamation point on this entire discussion, in that you are different. You are really empathetic and focused on what the customer needs both now and down the road and what they're trying to achieve and overcome. And for that, I applaud you. I think that you're doing great work, and I love anybody that's got a big dream. So I'm glad you shared that with all of us today.
You were supposed to know that.
On behalf of my co-hosts, Sean Wallace and Ariel Carlson, I am Chuck Koaxis. Thanks for joining us on the RF Frontiers podcast. I like big dreams. I hope you do too. Go find your big dream.